Thank you all for tuning in with us today. Today we're joined by one of the world's most requested motivational speakers, Lisa Nichols, whose global platform has reached nearly 30 million people. As founder and chief executive officer of Motivating the Masses, Inc., Lisa's helped develop workshops and programs that have transformed the lives of men and women and altered the trajectory of businesses around the world. Lisa's a best-selling author of 6 books, including her 7th book, Abundance Now, published by HarperCollins. Lisa, we're really honored to have you joining us today.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here with you. Very excited.
Absolutely. So today we're talking about manifestation and how to create abundance in your life, in everyone's life who's watching. And I'm excited for this interview today because I know how challenging it is for so many people right now. And I know you have a lot of really practical, hard-earned wisdom to share. So we're just going to dive right in. And the first question I'd love to ask you is what was it that inspired you or motivated you to write your latest book, Abundance Now?
You know, Nathan, I had so many people interviewing me, asking me about how did I go from welfare to Wall Street? How did I go from, not having food to feed my son to running a multi-million-dollar company? And everyone wanted it in a soundbite, a very quick answer. And it felt like the energy was leaning toward what I call wealth. Wealth is your financial reality and the possessions that you own. And while wealth is important to people that wealth is important to, abundance is a 360 experience. Abundance supersedes finances. It includes financial and possessions, but it supersedes that. And so I wanted people to understand what I call success, because everyone was calling me successful. And I needed to be clear that success wasn't just making more money or earning 7 figures or 8 figures or 6 figures or 5 figures or whatever it is. That success is about having an abundant life. And abundance is something that we have to disrupt. We have to redefine abundance. Abundance is not singularly focused. Abundance is not one lane called money and possessions and the car you drive. That abundance is a 360 experience. Abundance, abundance measures the quality of your relationships, Nathan. Abundance measures the way you feel in your body. Like, how are you feeling? Not the size you wear, but how do you feel in your body? Is your body operating? Is your body following the commands placed on your life? And so I found that there was a need to, one, share my story and share my journey in such a way that it leaves people with practical steps of what to do. I believe that success is made to be so mystical, partially or mostly by successful people, and I think that when successful people don't tell you what they did, it's because they don't believe that abundance exists. I believe that there's enough in the universe, there's enough in this world for you to have everything you want, everything you deserve, and for me to have everything I deserve, and for everyone else to have it. And then there still will be a lot left over. And so I wrote the book so that people, one, recognize the true understanding and meaning of abundance, that it's a 360 experience. It's not unilateral, just money, just possessions. 2, I titled it Abundance Now, keyword, now, so that people didn't think that they had to wait until they got somewhere to get it. They had to wait until they got that great job or they started that business or they found that love in order to have abundance. That abundance is a now experience now. The opportunity for abundance is all around you, and that you don't go get the things that make you abundant. You expand what you currently have into an abundant experience. You don't go get new abundant relationships. You take the relationships that you have and you say, I love you more often. I forgive you sooner. That I miss you. I apologize. And you make that existing relationship abundant. Same thing for money, that you will never get more money in your bank account until you're not a good steward, but a great steward of your existing dollars. And so I wrote Abundance Now because I also was tired of people saying one day, someday, that day, out there, over there, around that corner. And I wanted people to recognize that, no, it's a now conversation now.
So taking a step back, you said you were at a point in your life you couldn't even feed your child, and I'm sure. I mean, there's a lot of people probably watching this who have experienced that. I know I have as well. I've been homeless a couple of times in my life, and yet those were such powerful experiences for me that taught me more than anything that, at any point, in how to really experience fulfillment and happiness even without financial wealth. And yet at the same time, I'm totally in agreement with you that we all can have abundance in all areas of life. But I want to know, and I'm sure a lot of people want to know, tell us more about your history, your story, your experience of when you were struggling, and what was that struggle like, and what did the steps look like for you to pass or transform past that struggle?
So, struggle for me was first self-esteem, that I didn't believe that I could do some of the extraordinary things that I've been able to accomplish. I measured my future possibilities very connected to my past experiences. And I made my past experiences equal my future possibility. And that's just not the truth. I struggled with feeling like I was pretty enough. No one looked like me that had won a Miss America pageant. And so I figured, since I didn't look like the tall, thin, long-haired women, that something was wrong with me. I come from a community where there was lack and scarcity, so there was never enough. So my mindset was a mindset of struggle. My mindset was a mindset of, can I make it, or I'm afraid, and that transcends into my bank account. I got fired from 5 different jobs in my 20s. And it's funny because I thought that was the norm. And when I had my son, I had to get on government assistance to have my son. I didn't have money for insurance. I didn't have a job that had insurance. And when my son was 8 months old, I hit my rock bottom. I couldn't buy him Pampers, and I had to wrap him in a towel for 2 days. And that was my rock bottom. I was broken. I was broken. And I remember sitting on the couch saying, I can't be sentenced to 20 years of this. I can't be. It just can't be. And I began searching for answers, and I couldn't find any answers. I couldn't find any answers in my comfort zone. And when I say comfort zone, my community, my backyard, my culture. I couldn't find African American women that can give me what I needed. Not that they're not out there. I just couldn't find them. I couldn't find a church that can give me what I needed. I couldn't find a family member that could give me what I needed. And so I just kept going out further and further and further and further until I found an entrepreneur group, a dreamers. And I realized that when I found this group of entrepreneurs, it's like I stepped into this environment, and it was like, oh, they're a bunch of unicorns like me, a bunch of strange people thinking strange things, like I can transform my entire life, And so the first thing I did was I found a tribe of like-minded people.
So before we get into that, I want to just clarify. So when you hit rock bottom, you got to that point, if I'm correct in hearing you got to that point where you just said no more. You said enough is enough. You basically put your foot down and said, I'm no longer accepting this. I'm not going to accept this lifestyle or this condition any longer. Is that what happened? Your tolerance got to the level where it's just like you had that breakthrough.
I was just sick and tired. I was, there wasn't a epiphany moment where the lights all lit up and, the angels start singing. It wasn't that. I just literally went into my heart and said, do you want to be like this for the next 20 years? And the answer was no. The next 10 years, no. The next 5 years, no. Now, was it over in a year? No. Did it take me 5 years? Yeah. But I spent the next 5 years transforming. So I didn't decide what I wanted to pursue, the lifestyle I wanted to pursue initially. Initially, what I really got clear on, Nathan, was what I was sick and tired and done of. Like, I don't know what's over there. Not sure, but I know I ain't going back there. And so I just turned in the direction and I just said, let me at least walk in this direction because it's not that direction. And that was my first. And then as I got, started doing things, I began to get a taste of, ooh, that felt good. Now, mind you, most of the things that felt good to me were really scary to me. So that beckons the statement that your fear is not separate of your progress. And I'll say that again because some people don't even understand that people think when they're afraid they should stop. Well, when you're progressing, fear is a natural element of progression. It's almost like if you want to cook a dish, you don't even try to think of cooking that dish without heat. Heat is a natural part of the progression of cooking. And so I began to become comfortable in my discomfort of being afraid because I was every day, every week, every month, I was playing a little bit bigger than I had played the week or the month before.
And you knew at that point what the other alternative was. You knew what rock bottom was. You knew that if you didn't go in that direction, if you didn't face those fears, that you would be back there with the towel around your son and not able to. And I just want to really focus on that point for everyone tuning in. I can relate to that because I've been there, but at the same time, I don't believe everybody has to go there. I don't believe if you're watching this, I don't think you have to hit rock bottom, but you do have to, like Lisa did and I've done, is you have to get really clear about what you don't want and then at the same time stop focusing on what you don't want and start stepping into the opposite direction. And to do that requires awareness, right? It requires being aware of that there is a possibility, even if you don't know how, but there is a possibility of something better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then also recognizing that sometimes it's not rock bottom that will jolt you. It's the realization that you're stagnant in your complacency because you're not in pain. You're not in discomfort. That the very fact that you are just not moving is uncomfortable. The very fact that you've become comfortable because you're not hungry, because your needs are being met, that you've kind of, start kind of leaning back and that can be something the question is, do I want to spend the next 20 years like this? Am I okay if I'm here in the next 10 years or a version of this? And so I just began to chart path. And I got to tell you, I fell down many, many times. Many, many times I fell down. I spent a lot of money in wrong directions. I doubted myself much longer than I should have. I trusted people without doing my due diligence. I didn't trust people who seemed worthy and in integrity because of my fears. I didn't ask for help soon enough, quick enough. So the path to this place that brings forth this interview was riddled as much with difficult lessons learned, but never ever did I wonder, was that outcome available for me? So the difference between me and a lot of people is my reward, my outcome, my possibility is not compromised when I make a mistake. It's not compromised when I gain 10 pounds. It's not questioned when I'm in a relationship or when I break up with someone. It's not questioned. So that outcome, that result, that thing called joy, peace, happiness, love, compassion, wealth, all of that still is available to me regardless of what I'm experiencing in the journey. So I became non-negotiable. A lot of people, most people, treat their goals, their outcomes like they're optional. My goals, my outcomes were non-negotiable.
And so you had to make that contract with yourself, right? You didn't have anybody else. I mean, other than obviously your son. But at
Yes.
the end of the day, you're the one responsible for your thinking, your actions, and where you're headed in your direction. So what was that like for you when you got to that point? Because how you talk about complacency is so true. Because even if you've achieved any level of success and you do become stagnant and complacent, all of a sudden you can lose everything, and then you're like, oh, now you have to start over again or whatever, and it's like.
Right.
It's like, okay, so how do you, number one, prevent that, and number two, how do you get to a point where that success is not only possible but a reality for people who don't believe that it's possible?
Right. So, how do you prevent stagnation? So, number one, I would say that you need to always go for something bigger than you. Like I always say that your contribution and what drives you should be so big that you don't even know how you're going to get there. Like if you can see the end of your goal, then your goal ain't quite big enough. And I don't mean your immediate goal. I mean the fact that I say I want to travel the world, I want to visit third world countries, I want to do it 6 to 8 months out of the year, and I want to sit in villages, and I want to be a massive contribution. And whatever their most basic needs are, I want to leave that village better than I found it when I arrived. I want to be a major contribution. I have no idea how to do that. Like every time I say it, I go, oh my God, and it's going to take a lot of money, more than what I currently have, because I don't want to work. I don't want to work. I don't want to work 8 months out of the year. 8 months out of the year, I want to sit in villages in Kenya and Uganda and South Africa and Soweto and Cape Town and Port Elizabeth, and I just want to serve young women and mothers. I don't know how I'm gonna do it yet. I don't know what it's gonna cost. I have no idea. So it's beyond what I can even see yet. So it drives me. So I can't get complacent with that because I got to figure that out, right? And so and it's funny because I have that big dream. So my beginning point for that is I just started donating to an organization that builds schools for young girls. That's my starting point. That's my baby point. So complacency comes when you believe you've arrived somewhere. So if you want to avoid complacency, understand and create an outcome that's so far out there that you know it's going to take you 15 to 20 years to get there, so that it inspires you to move forward. Now, what I believe is that anything that's going to drive you has to be something that leaves the world a better place than it was. So it should live in service and in contribution to others and impacting the lives of others, because that just is more inspiring than I'm going to sell 1 million water bottles. Just not that thing that makes you want to jump out of bed in the morning. But if I sell 1 million water bottles, and for every water bottle that I sell, I donate. Every 5 that I sell, I donate a pair of shoes. So grab a hold to a greater cause. And then what do you do? Like, how do you set a goal? How do you reach for something that is big, especially in the face of breakdown? I encourage you to write this down. Give yourself 1,000 second chances. Give yourself 1,000 second chances. That so often we lose hope in ourselves and faith in ourselves because we failed at something before. And I think we should reevaluate our relationship with failure. I embrace failure in my life because when I embrace failure, I give myself permission to play big. Because if I'm spending my life, if you're spending your life trying to avoid failure, then every time you get to the edge of the ledge, the edge of the cliff, every time it's about time to jump, you're not going to jump because you're so committed to not failing that you prevent yourself from flying. And so be willing to give yourself 1,000 second chances to get it right. And every time you get to 999, press reset. And then you got 1,000 more chances to get it right.
So, and I know how true that is in so many ways, and yet at the same time I know how difficult that is for people to step into that fear, to really recognize that what you're saying is an absolute truth, that everybody you ever talk to who's achieved any level of success in every area of their life has failed a million times over. And yet at the
and
same
our
time...
failures, by the way, at this stage, my failures cost six figures. Every single one.
Yeah, no, and I'm on the same page there, and it hurts a lot more when it's a six-figure failure than when it's like, you know, you lose $1,000 or you lose $500. But at the same time, it all depends on your it all depends on your circumstance, right? So a failure is a failure. But really, it's like, how does somebody? I mean, for me, I believe it's through conditioning and doing it over again and again and again that you realize, oh God, yeah, I made a failure, but and it was some big mistakes, but you know what? I know I can get through this. I know I can learn from this. I know I can make it better and do it right. But somebody who's just starting out, or somebody who is just experiencing failure for the first time, it's the end of the world, right? It's the end of your life. Everything's over, and people, you have two options, right? It's either you dig yourself in a hole of depression and alcoholism or drug addiction or whatever happens, or just you know, never come out of the closet again, or you break through that. And you know, we're talking about, it's like, how does somebody not go into that depressive hole and get through the breakthrough?
Right. I have this this rule about failing. I said I can fail at anything as long as I fail forward. So I recommend that you write that down, that you fail forward. And I have a system to failing forward, actually. So in order for me to fail forward, and if I don't do this, I don't feel like I fell forward. I feel like I just fell. But I always do it now because I'm conditioned to do it. So in order to fail forward, you need to find three things that you know you did really well and two areas that you know you can improve upon. So three things that you know that you can do really well and that you did really well in that circumstance, and two things that you know you can improve upon. And what happens is failure is designed to feed your future if you allow it. Now, when you fail forward, you feed your future. When you just fail, then you rob yourself of future experiences because you're keeping score. You're keeping evidence that it won't work. But when you fail forward, you're like, okay, here are the three things I was strong at. I did this, this, and this really well. And here are the two opportunities for improvement. That informs your future decisions. So when you're doing anything like this again, you're like, oh yeah, I remember the two things I did, and these three things I want to make sure I do again. So we have the 3 and 2 model in my company. Every project we ever do, we do 3 and 2. What are three things you know you did well? What are two things that you can improve upon? I do it with my son. When my son is doing something, I say, what are three things you know you did well? And what's two areas for improvement? And you'll be blown away by, as the more you list those things for improvement, it's not the things you did well. The more you consciously list those two areas of improvement, the more you're going to do the things that you want to do to get more successful. So I say fail. Just fail forward.
I love it. This is fascinating. We've got a lot more to dive into. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after these short messages.
Here at Unify Festival in New Mexico. beautiful gathering in its first year. I can't even imagine what it will be like next year.
This weekend has been one of the most magical experiences of my festival career.
I still feel like I haven't explored enough after 3 days, so it was awesome.
It has been the most inspiring and heart-centered festival I have ever been to.
All right, thank you all for tuning in here. We're with Lisa Nichols with motivatingthemasses.com, and this has been just truly a fascinating conversation. In the first half here, you've already shared some really empowering and practical wisdom. I want to get a little bit deeper now. So somebody who's struggling with scarcity or debt or financial challenges, I mean, what are some specific things you would say to them, specifically if they don't believe that they can have an abundant life?
Yes. So, normally you hear at this point about saving your money, going down your debt. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna go to your mindset. So we all have money blueprints. We all have money mindsets. So write this down if you're listening to me now, just so that you can hold on to it. So recognizing that we have several money blueprints all operating and managing us at the same time. So and I want to bring from your unconscious to your conscious. I want to bring from your unconscious to your conscious some of the drivers that might be driving you. So when you talk about your money mindset or your money blueprint, we have a cultural money blueprint. And that's culturally, however money was related to in your culture. And your culture isn't necessarily your nationality. Your culture is the environment in terms of just what the culture is. And so culturally, there's a relationship to money. I remember when I was with someone who used to work for me, and she's white, I'm African American, obviously, and we were in the store, and the woman asked me, "Do you want to apply for a credit card?" And I said, "Oh, no, let me save your ink and not write it down because they're going to deny me." And we're all around the counter, and several women were at the counter ready to pay. And I said, "No, let me save your ink. No sense in me getting denied and wasting your time, wasting your ink, wasting my time. They're going to say no." And then the woman to my right joked and said, "Girl, yes, I know." She was African American as well. I applied and they said no really fast and wanted to cut up my existing credit cards. And so she made a comment as well. Well, the woman who was with me, who was white, she was mortified, right? And when we got back in the car, she said, "Oh my God, I've never heard people talk about credit like that and bad credit publicly." And what I realized in that moment was that culturally, we had two different relationships to money. Whereas in the African American culture, not exclusive to everyone, this is just in the environment that I was in, that it was okay to talk about bad credit because bad credit was the norm. Because being a good steward of credit wasn't something that was culturally promoted. Whereas for her, that was a major thing. And so talking about it and talking about it in a negative fashion shocked her. So there's your culture blueprint. What is the environment around you? What's your culture? How do they relate to money? Then the second thing is economically. How was money related to in your home? Because the way money was related to in your home influences you. Was money divisive? If money was divisive, then it possibly still is divisive, or you want to dismiss it so that it never become divisive. Or was money the reason why your parent, your father was away from you, or your mother was never at home? If that's the case, then either you know the same pattern, so you believe that being dutiful, a great parent, is to be away and make money and bring it back home, or the opposite, you are doing everything in your power not to be away from your children, so you're limiting your financial success, your growth, because you don't want it to cost you your relationship with your children. Nothing is an absolute, so just know I'm just giving you some examples. But the way money was related to in your house, was it argued over? Was it the thing that all your rewards came from? So if you did something well, you were purchased, something was bought for you. If that's the case, it's unconsciously influencing you. And then there are three other influencers around money. So what I would say to the scarcity mindset, mindset of lack and scarcity, is to really, and I talk about this in the book. It's one of the first things I talk about in the book is your money mindset. So in the book, I go over all the different ways. And then I even give you an exercise to do so that you can really identify your money mindset, in those individual areas. And so when you look at them and you take them apart, Nathan, and you go, wait, I'm just looking at money this way, but really I have a relationship to money as a woman, relationship to money as an African-American woman or your culture. I have a spiritual relationship to money that even though you may not be in the religion or the spiritual practice now, it's the one that you grew up with. Because unless you cut that umbilical cord consciously, you're still carrying around that conversation. Whether you're listening to it or not, you're carrying it around. And so you see spiritual, you see economic, you see cultural, gender. I have a different relationship to money as a woman than you do as a man. Can we begin to meet each other in the middle and begin thinking, yes, but it has to be consciously. So anyway, so money blueprints really influence how you spend money, how you save money, how you grow money, how you give money away, how you relate to money, how you relate to you and a lot of money. For me, I was very comfortable with money. I just wasn't comfortable with a lot of money. Why? Because as a woman, I thought that it would take all my femininity away. Spiritually, my spiritual blueprint said that I wasn't going to be as godly if I made a lot of money. And culturally, I didn't know anybody that looked like me with a lot of money. And so I had to overcome each one of those mental hurdles in order to sit in the seat that I sit in very comfortably.
So I think we all can relate to, well, a lot of people can relate to, especially raised in a family where it's like, can I get that? And no, we don't have enough money. Or can I go to that camp with my friends? And no, we can't afford that. Or, can I get this treat or this? No, we don't have enough money. Maybe for Christmas or something, right? And so it starts feeding us subconsciously, and it starts, and then, you're 25, 35, 45, 55, and not even aware that is in your subconsciousness driving your financial decisions. So number one is what you're saying is we have to become aware of those subconscious blueprints around our culture, our gender, how we were, our upbringing, etc. And then number two is, so where do you go from there? What are some of the things you did to cut that umbilical cord, to overcome that subconscious blueprint within your reality?
The first thing I did was I exposed it to see what I was working with. So I think in self-development, we so often want to run to the next really fast. Let me just outrun this reality, and the reality is everywhere you go, there you are. Everywhere you go, there you're going to be. So let's not try to outrun it with some really great words and a really great phrase and a really great Bitmoji and a really great post. And let's just, expose what this current truth that I'm listening to. It's only a current truth because you called it a current truth. And then you have the opportunity to say, now, do I choose to believe this any longer? Or do I want to replace this with a new belief system? I spend a lot of time talking about that in abundance now because I recognize that in order for me to move from where I was to where I am, I had to first honor, own, expose, and manage where I was in the moment. I couldn't just have a great thought and grab the great thought. Because the moment I was triggered, Nathan, the moment I had a hard time, I would slingshot back to my old thinking because I'd never confronted and disempowered the old thinking because I was so in a rush to leave it. And so I can be called strange and I'm okay with that. It wouldn't be the first or the last, I'm sure. But I say, let's walk into your mindset. Let's unpack it. Let's get in the mud. Like this could be dirty. This breakthrough might not be televised, And so when people step onto my campus, they know that I'm going, let's go in. I'm gonna put the gloves on, let's go in. Because when we uproot, keyword, when we uproot this thinking, this toxic thinking, this limited thinking, we hold it in our hand. We call it what it is. You don't serve me anymore. You saying that as a African-American woman, as someone who grew up in a house that didn't have both parents, as a single mom, that I cannot have prosperity, abundance, and wealth. you are a lie. Like, really hold it, really. And what I'm really clear on is I get intimately connected, Nathan, with what that mindset has cost you. Now that's not nice, that's not pretty, and it don't feel good, which is why most people won't ever do it. But when you get connected with what a thought and a mindset has cost you, what a behavior has cost you. I mean, really unpack it. You've cost me. I'll get in the mirror and I'll grab a mirror and I'll be like, so what you cost me is, so you're my behavior of procrastination. And what you cost me is, and I'll get right there in the mirror and I will address the behavior, because once I recognize all that it's cost me, I don't want to pay the piper again. Then I move over to, what am I going to replace that behavior with? What am I going to replace that thought with? What do I replace that limiting belief? What new beliefs? So first, I unpack it, I expose it, I own it, I speak to it, I get mad at it, and I disempower it. Then I grab something else. Otherwise, it just follows you everywhere you go. Everywhere you go, it's following you because you never managed it. You never dissipated it. You never dissipated it into the nothingness that it always was.
Right, because denial just actually buries it deeper and then expands that energy in your life, right? So, I mean...
And we have some sexy denial going on. We deny with bling bling these days. We deny with 2 million followers. We deny with a whole bunch of makeovers and makeup. We deny really sexy these days because we got better tools to deny.
Yeah. Well, and it's true, because you can see somebody that can't even afford to, feed themselves very well, but then yet they're driving a $50,000 car and can barely, pulling change together to pay payments just because of that external appearance. But that's really denial, right? Because we're not really accepting what it is that is truly valuable for us, right? So I think that's also figuring out what are our values first, and then understanding those values and what really creates that joy and that fulfillment in our lives. As you said, shining the light really on that deep-rooted garbage first, and then now we can work towards enhancing those values, which maybe for someone it is a $50,000 or $60,000 car, but if you can't take care of yourself or your family, obviously that car does nothing for you, right?
Yeah, and I think a big part of it, Nathan, is recognizing, and this was big for me, I did this about 15 years ago, is recognizing with all of your brilliance and all that you know, when you've taken yourself as far as you can take yourself. Like, with all your brilliance, like, great, I got myself here. Now I'm going to need someone who's 2 to 10 steps ahead of me to take me to my next level. So the smartest thing I did was I got a coach in my life, because you just said, go to that dark place and look at the things that are stopping you. Well, I don't ever want to go there in my dark space alone. Like, do not send me in my head and my stinking thing alone. I need an escort. And so I found someone that could help me discover what I was thinking, discover what was holding me back. I found someone who wasn't in my situation. They'd already been there before. And so for me, I'm real big on coaching. And I love coaching now because you can get it live. You can get it one-on-one. You can get it one-to-many. You can get it on video and never, ever meet the person. Some of my biggest mentors I've never met. I just was coached by them through their work, so I've never met Stephen Covey. But Stephen Covey all day long will be a part of a thread in the tapestry of the fabric of my life, because he coached me. When I met his son, I cried and hugged his son, and you would have thought we were best friends. And I said, your dad has taught me so much. He thought I had met his dad. I'm like, oh, no, I didn't meet him. I just studied his work. And so recognizing that you don't have to go to that place of unpacking your limiting beliefs, or you don't have to do that by yourself, because you're only going to take yourself as far as you're skilled to take yourself, which pretty much is right here, looking at this video. Then you go, okay, how do I get to the next piece? Who can take me there? That's the discovery zone. So I'm always discovering a new coach, and I'm always looking for new people to teach me.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's, I mean, we need that external stimuli and wisdom. That's why everyone is obviously watching this interview, is to be able to learn some of, hopefully that your wisdom will, rub off on us a little bit, and we can walk in your footsteps and do our work in the world, which leads me to my next question, because in your book you talk about each person's life assignment. And to me, it triggers things like purpose and passion, and why are you here, and what can you contribute to the world. So can you talk about what you mean by each person's life assignment?
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. So I believe that each of us was given a life assignment. And I say assignment not singularly, because your assignment is going to change in seasons. The assignment I had on my life 25 years ago is different than the assignment that's on my life now. And your assignment will always be bigger and greater than you. Your assignment is always about leaving the world a better place than it was before you came. Whatever your gift is, whatever your contribution is. And a lot of times when people hear gift and contribution and purpose, they think extremely ginormous. They think Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi, Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King, Oprah, they think big assignments, when in fact, every single part of it. My grandmother was a nurse, and her assignment was what she instilled in us as her grandchildren. And I've never seen a group of people so impacted by one little lady weighing, 101 pounds. A part of her life assignment was literally being a good steward of the world, so we can witness that. I said I said 26 years ago, when I was burying my grandmother and I saw her funeral, I said, God, please allow me, I was 25 at the time, please allow me to live the kind of life that would inspire people to say these type of things about me. And so she began to navigate, literally impact the course and the direction of my life. I say that to say that your purpose and your divine assignment, that it will be, in some cases, it will be the small impact that you have on people in a very consistent way. And for others, it'll be a big experience, and that it's all relative and it's all necessary. And it's going to change in seasons. If you were a parent and your life assignment was to bring life into this world and to nurture it, and then you're in a new season. So adopt that new season, take on that new season, and don't look for purpose as if it's outside of you. Purpose is not outside of you. Purpose is always inside of you. You just have to stop being so busy in movement, be still, and know that the quality of your answer is determined by the quality of your question. So ask a better question, not what is my purpose, as much as it is thank you for my purpose, and show me it when it shows up. Remind me when I'm in it. Remind me when I'm in my purpose, so that you'll get that little whisper, and then being still enough. I always say prayer is asking the divine, asking God, the divine, whatever you call your higher power, for direction. And meditation and stillness is being quiet long enough to hear the answer.
Beautiful. Well, and you said impact, and I think so many people, especially in the younger generations coming up right now, are feeling a calling to want to make some sort of impact, even if they don't know what that is, or even if they don't know what that means. But it resonates that, yeah, I want to make an impact.
It feels good.
It feels good. But at the same time, I think, like you said, people get stuck because they think making an impact has to be, being somebody like Gandhi and freeing an entire country from tyranny or so forth. But I think what's important for all of us to realize is, like your book, Abundance Now, it's about in this present moment now. What impact are you making through how you're speaking to your friends, or how you're talking to your wife or your husband or your child? Because how you present yourself to those people around you in that moment, the homeless person or the children in Africa that you want to help, or how you present in that moment is going to make an impact that you may never, ever, ever see.
The ripple effect.
The ripple effect. And I know this because when I started speaking and writing and sharing my story and things like that over a decade ago, I was walking down the street one time, and I didn't, I was like, I didn't really think if anybody ever listened to what I said or cared about what I said or anything, but I had this random person pull me. I was in my car, and they walked up to my window and go, "Are you Nathan Crane?" And I said, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh my God, this thing you said 2 years ago changed my life. I was on drugs. I was homeless. I was experiencing these things. And now it's like, now I'm a different person. I have my child. I'm healthy." And I'm just like, whoa. It gave me a new perspective. You have no idea what you say to one person, how big of an impact that can make 10 years down the road.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Your gifts are not for you to keep to yourself. You didn't come here to save your life. You came here to save our lives. When I got clear on that, the best thing I can do is give as much of me away in kindness, love, joy, compassion, laughter, grace, as much of that away as possible, so that when I'm in my final stages, I am really empty. Like I said, I gave it all. I played full out. Like we harness it and we hold it. And when we're harnessing our gifts, or harnessing our passion, we're really being very selfish, because what we're doing is we're holding on to it until we can deliver it in a perfected way. And really, when you want to deliver perfection, you really just want to manage the perception that people have of you, which is why I call it selfish. And so I tell people, sometimes I'm on stage in front of like 4,000 people, and I go, God, I'm still learning how to do this job that I'm doing. And when I learn how to do it, I'm going to really be good at it. But on the way, I'm going to serve a few million people or so, And so, because I'm still learning how to get better at what I do. And so understanding that your life was really a gift to everyone around you. And I love you talking about how are you in your home? How are you inspiring the people that wake up in the same house with you to love the perceivingly unlovable, to forgive the perceivingly unforgivable, to have grace and compassion in the midst of frustration and annoyance, to ask for 1,000 second chances, to apologize sooner, quicker, faster, to forgive sooner, quicker, faster. You want to have an impact on the world, first have an impact on your personal address at home, then have an impact on your zip code, then have an impact on your region, then just have an impact on your city, then just have an impact on your state. There's so many layers before you get to the world, and it's funny because I in the last 5 years, I've climbed the mountains of Croatia. I've surfed in Australia. I've danced in Mykonos, Greece. I've napped under the moonlight in Cancun and in Montego Bay and in Barbados and in Tortola. And I've danced in Ireland with my dad. And I've spent time in Kazakhstan praying. And I'm on my way to Istanbul now, and after that I'm on my way to Ibiza, Spain, and I'll end the year in Milan, and while it is the world now, it is the global conversation, but I started every Tuesday and every Thursday going to the local women's battered shelter in South Central Los Angeles, having no idea, Nathan, what my life would be like. I just had this calling and this pulling on me to serve, to inspire. And I remember talking to women, and I never saw their faces, because the entire time that I was talking to them, they were looking like this. The entire time I was speaking to them, their shoulders were crunched over. The entire time I never saw their faces. And then I'd leave there, and on Saturdays, I would go to the drug and alcohol recovery institution in my area. And I would volunteer and speak at their group sessions, because no one was coming in to speak for their group session, so I would speak. And I remember 2 years after doing this, I was at an ATM, and I turned around, and this woman started screaming. And she said, "Oh my God, oh my God." And this was long before I was Lisa Nichols. This was like in 2000, right? 17 years ago. She said, "You're Lisa. You're the lady that came to our shelter over on Normandy in Manchester." I said, "Yeah, I'm her." She said, "You don't recognize me because I never looked up. But because of you, my children and I are now in a safe place, and we won't be abused again." To that same vein, I got a call from a woman who was in a recovery institution from cocaine. And she said, Miss Nichols, can you come speak at my graduation? And I said, sure. And I went to speak at her graduation, and she stood up to introduce me. And she said, the reason why I'd like Miss Nichols to speak at my graduation is because she doesn't know this. But the day she came and inspired us, I had already organized my escape method, and I'd already planned my suicide. Mm. And so to this day, Nathan, it's now been 17 years, actually 19 years for one. But no matter how many countries I go to, no matter how many stages I stand on, no matter how many platforms I sit on across from Oprah, beside Larry King, beside Steve Harvey, on the same stage as Tony Robbins, that woman from that battered shelter and that other woman from the recovery institution, they still drive me. They're in my backyard, and all I want to do is duplicate the good that I brought to those two women to as many people as I want and as many people as I can. And so when people say, I want to have this big dream. Okay, great. Inspire your backyard. Serve your backyard. Serve your household. Because it will, trust me when I say, from my mouth to your ears, it will grow. The more you do good, the more good will grow, the more it will expand, and you'll end up finding yourself dancing in Greece, or loving someone in Kazakhstan who doesn't even speak your language, but you don't have to talk because your hearts relate to each other. So I'm real big on start living in your passion and following that pulling. You might not know what it is, Nathan, but follow the pulling. I didn't know. I just went to Women's Battle Shelter, and it felt good to keep going back every Tuesday and Thursday. I didn't get paid. I didn't get paid for 4 years. I went to the Abuse Recovery Center, the Drug Abuse Recovery Center. I didn't get paid. They paid me after 2 years. They paid me $50 to speak at their graduation. I didn't go for the money. I went because it felt right. I had a job to pay for my bills, but this was what felt right in my calling. And then ultimately, this was able to replace my job, but it was years.
Well, and that's I mean, ending with that, I think is spot on, because I think so many people say, when I'm rich, when I have the time, when I'm a successful speaker, when
my children grow up, when I'm out of debt,
then I'll volunteer, then I'll go serve at the community center, then I'll go do these things that I want to do, and you're a testament to, no, do it now before you're rich, because what that's going to do is it's going to make you rich and wealthy and abundant from the inside out.
And it attracts abundance to you. When you're living in abundance, in your service, you attract abundance to you. And so like attracts like. I operated as if I had enough time to serve people. Like, time is always that commodity you feel like you don't have enough of. But I found the time to be of service and of value to others. So yes, we can end with the fact that your purpose and your passion, your contribution, it's all right there in front of you. And you will get everything you want when you're really living in a place of, one, serving you first, because you have to serve others from your overflow. Don't serve from a bone dry tank or an empty tank. You need to fill yourself up like you're doing right now, watching this, and then serve from your overflow. But serve.
Beautiful. Lisa, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom today. You're a true inspiration for humanity and for everybody tuning in. I really appreciate you sharing.
Amen. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I honor and celebrate you for who you are. Thank you for being such a conscious, evolved individual on this planet, that you want to bring other people to this level of enlightenment, acceptance, ownership, possibility, and greatness. So I celebrate you as your sister, and I appreciate you.
Thank you. And thank you all for tuning in. That's all we have for today. You can learn more about Lisa and her incredible work and pick up a copy of her book at motivatingthemasses.com. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you on the next interview. Take care.